we're live. Oh, now we're live. Okay. I'm like, is this thing on? Is that still a thing to like, is this thing on? I don't know. Okay. Hi, and welcome to the Western Hippie. I am Michaela, and my co host Willard is in the other room, my corgi. If you're new to the channel, then you may not have met Willard or me before, but it's always me and my corgi. He's my right hand man, travel buddy, all the things. And today, the goal of this video is to react to the Richmond North of Richmond, which obviously there's have been hundreds of reaction videos by now. But my goal is to really look at the song for how it is and not how I want it to be or how we want it to be. Because if you think about beliefs, values, rules, the things that we have in our life, those things stack and create the lens at which we view and look at the world through. And so when we look at a song like The Richmond North of Richmond that has some punchy and maybe polarizing lyrics, it can be really easy to put that lens on even I don't wanna say, like, even harder or even further or deeper, like, I don't even know the right word for that, but to latch that lens on even more secure and look at this song through that lens, and so I really want to look at this song for what it is and not how we've made it out to be, how the right's made it out to be, or how the left's made it out to be, and really just appreciate the song for what it is, which to me, hence the name of this live, is The Cry of the Country. I listened to this song one time and I can't tell you why, but as I listened to it, I just heard this like, this is the cry of the country. And it's kind of interesting because I'm a country music nerd. I just love music because for me, and this song has done it better than any song I've ever listened to. And I've listened to a lot of sad country music songs in my years. Like it's kind of funny, but when I grew up, Toby Keith and Cher were my favorite artists. I would listen to Toby Keith's like, "How Do You Like Me Now?" But then on my way to preschool, I asked my mom to play the Cher Believe album because I was born in '95. I believe came out in '98 or '99. And so every day on my way to school, I'd ask my mom to play Strong Enough, and it was like, "I don't need your sympathy. There's nothing you could say or do for me." Like music has just always been there for me because I felt like it could articulate the emotions that I could not. It could help me move through and feel through emotions that I wouldn't allow myself, or maybe I couldn't, or whatever that was. So, music to me, like Willie, has always been like a sidekick for me to help me move through things that I can't move through alone. And sometimes there are just things, no matter how much you talk to a friend or whatever, music can just move emotions differently than maybe talking or other things can. And so when I was listening to this Richmond North of Richmond and that cry of the country, I was thinking of the song The Coward of the Country by Kenny Rogers. And there's just a song, and The Coward of the Country was not this song by any means. I don't know how it did overall, but it's not Kenny Rogers' biggest hit by any means. But there's this moment of a song that can become an anthem. And that's what makes me so sad why this song has been made political, which am I surprised? No. Are we surprised by anything at this point? Probably not. Like you can tell me you had coffee with an alien last week and be like, "Did you have decaf?" like, that would be my biggest question. Like, was it decaf coffee or did you have a cold brew? I don't know. And so it's so sad to me because this song to me is a song of grief. And as I first listened to this song, I was grieving things personally, and this song helped me move through that. I went to film school in 2015 to 2016, I believe. And there's this pie chart called The Rule of Six. And Walter Murch wrote a book called In the Blink of an Eye. Walter Murch was a sound editor, worked on many high award winning films and noticed that out of all the films he saw do really, 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 really great, they had these six elements in it. And in those six elements, what he noticed is emotion is 51% of the pie chart. This is why someone can watch a really terrible oh my gosh, I can't. This is why someone can watch a really terrible Hallmark movie and just love it. This is why we have like, why am I admitting this out loud? Because I don't need to admit it out loud, but I'm going to. Like, this is why I love Twilight. Like, I was in middle school when Twilight was a thing. It's definitely my guilty pleasure. But why do I love Twilight? Because it hits me emotionally. No, it's Not the reading is easy. Is it the best I've read? Absolutely not. The movies are terrible. The older I get and the more I watch the movies, I just am like, this is if it wasn't werewolves and vampires, it would be pedophilia. Like, they're not good. I know this, and yet they hit me somewhere emotionally, and so I watch them. And this is why we can listen to things or watch things that maybe aren't technically correct. Maybe they're not good. As I'm sitting here, I'm going nuts about these like hot spots because this is like too hot, but this light is too hot on my face. But if I turn it off, I'm too dark. Like those little things make this video have some things that just aren't correct. But yet I know if it hits emotionally, it doesn't matter. There's so many YouTube videos I watch that someone just throws up a phone or a webcam that maybe doesn't it only goes to 720p instead of 1080p, but yet we watch it because it hits us emotionally. And this song, the Richmond North of Richmond, does this better than any song I've ever heard. And I actually there's a song called Off the Record by Aaron Watson, and it's about him and his wife. They're going through a divorce, and the hypothesis, the punchline, whatever you wanna call it, of the song is, "And off the record, I'm still in love with you," because 'cause they're in the attorney's office. They've got all of these things on the record, right? But then off the record, "I still love you." Up until this Richmond North of Richmond song, I have not had a song just, like, hit me like this song is, and I think you can hear this in that song that I was just telling you about, Off the Record by Aaron Watson. You can hear the sadness in his voice, but, like, the way that Oliver Anthony Music, I believe his real name is actually Christopher, so Christopher, I don't know, sings it is just so powerful. The grief is real, and that is why the 51% of this song is grief. It's emotion. That's what makes the song so powerful, is the grief in Oliver Anthony's voice, the grief in the lyrics, just the raw honesty. That is the beauty of the song. And that's why it's so sad to me that it's been taken as a right-winged anthem or a people on the like, it's been made to look like some, like, I don't even know I don't even know what the headlines are saying about Oliver Anthony, Christopher, music, whatever. I don't even know what they're saying about him right now, but I'm sure it's, along the lines of a white supremacist redneck out in the hills of West Virginia, right? Like, it's really not hard to guess headlines at this point. And so, instead of just listening to the song, like, as it is, it's been running through these filters of it's the right and it's like Oliver Anthony said on Joe Rogan, these people that are Republicans, let's just say, that use it at the Republican speech. He's like, I wrote this song about you. Like, you're part of the rich men north of Richmond. And then for the people on the left, like, there are so many people, and I hate categorizing things like this, but for oversimplification, like, and then there are these people on the left that I'm like, I know you would love this song, but you read an article or you watched a headline on CNN and now you won't even give this song a time of day. When really it's just a song of grief of like, WTF, what happened to this country? Has anybody left, right, indifferent, red, blue, purple? Like, has anybody not felt that at one point throughout the last 3 years? And if you haven't, like, no offense, dude, but where the F have you been? Because things have changed, some for the better, maybe some not for the better. I don't know. But to me, and I believe the first person I heard articulate it like this was Tucker Max in a blog post he wrote or something like there is a grieving process of the America that has died and no longer exists. And even if you're not, and even if you could give two Fs, if you go live out in the woods in a cabin and you just happen to catch a Wi-Fi stream and are watching this video, like even at that, we've all experienced grief of some sort. And it doesn't even have to be like the big grief things. It could be the little grief of like, I didn't get to marry my high school sweetheart, or, I thought I'd go to college, but like there's these major pockets of grief, but there's also these little pockets of grief. And so as the song like comes out, I am just amazed by how it's even helping me move through grief, not related to the lyrics, just grief in my own personal life. It's really the cry of the country. Like, whether you were grieving things on a big level as far as the state of the country or whether you were grieving things on more of a minute level, this song is a cry for help of there's all these problems and we're just acting like they don't exist. And I don't know about you, but the reason that I'm going through some grief right now is because something happened 7 or 8 years ago, and I refuse to deal with it. And here comes this song that's like, I gotta deal with this now because we can't keep sticking our heads in the sand and pretending like the things that make us sad aren't making us sad, because all it does is compound and make more sadness. So that was a long tangent of what makes me sad, that why this song has been, instead of people looking at the song for how it is, which is, in my opinion, this cry of the country, this very neutral. Yes, there are some stingers, but at the same time, these things wouldn't be stingers if the media told things how they are and not ran them through their perception of the world. If people would just go look at the facts, there's nothing controversial about this song. It just calls out the BS that the Richmond North of Richmond try to sweep under the rug through media, whatever. I'm not going to get into that today. So, what I wanted to do, hopefully to do this song, I hope to do this song some justice because it's, helped me so much moving through grief and other things in the last few weeks, is I'm going to read the lyrics and sit, and that's why I'm doing this live. I'm doing this live for a couple of reasons. One, I want to get better at just being on my feet and not, for me, and I think this, when I was in film school, we took acting classes as well. And there's this, I get so tempted to be like, "Give me another take, give me another take," and then next thing I know, I've got, like, 20 takes and nothing to show for it. So part of me wanted to really practice, like, just being on my feet and being live and not being filtered and freaking edited. Like, that was the other thing that, Christopher Oliver Anthony music, to me, has done so well, is shown us the power of emotion, and all that other shit doesn't really fucking matter. Like, let's just, you know, be here, and I won't be edited. So when I mess up and stumble, it's like, I'm so human. We all mess up and stumble, but that doesn't mean we still can't. I love to fucking talk. Like, I just like to talk. So like I can still get up here and talk to you, even though these hot spots are driving me nuts, even though I'm going to stumble. And so I want to keep leaning into that through these live YouTube videos. So that's one of the reasons it's live. And then also I needed to not have 20 retakes because, here we are today. So a reason I so that's and so the other reason I guess that I'm reading this out loud instead of playing the song is, one, yeah, it's live, and then two, I think with that filter that we tend to put on with our beliefs, rules, values, and whatever, when we hear the song, how it's sang and how we've heard it, it's a lot easier to put those perceptions back on. Where me, who's neutral, who is not singing the song, I'm just reading the lyrics, I'm hoping that by me reading it instead of playing it, it could allow you to look at this song through a different lens instead of the same lens that you have been looking at it. And there's no right or wrong way to do things. Like, if you've been looking at it as like a right wing savior anthem, whatever you want to call it, like, maybe this will give you a chance to say, like, no, it's really, covering the whole country. And it is also about the Republicans on the right. And if you're on the left, maybe you say, oh, this guy isn't a right wing conspiracy theorist. He's just a guy that's trying to pay his bills and live life in the best way possible, who loves this country and also has this. I didn't listen to the whole Rogan episode, but I'm like, he just really cares, and he's gone through mental health stuff, and he, like, cares about things that most people accuse the right for not caring about, and it's really beautiful. So anyway, I'm gonna read them in hopes that it will allow you to look at the song through a different lens than maybe you've currently been looking at it. So the first chorus goes, I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home, and drown my troubles away. And it's kind of interesting because in 2019, I went through a huge personal development era, I guess you could call it. And I went to 4 personal development conferences, 2 of those conferences being Tony Robbins. And Tony talks a lot about changing your emotional state. And so if you're in a bad mood, if you're in a slump, you would go do burpees, because the quickest way to change your mind is through your body. And Tony was saying, everything we do is in a box. You get in a box, you drive to a box, you work in a box, and then you get back in your box, you drive home to your other box, aka your house. And then to change things up for the day, you sit on your couch and you grab a cylinder to change your state, because that's all we know. And I don't know someone who can't relate to that, that you're just tired of selling your soul to the devil and you feel like you're just going round and round in a hamster wheel. I call it the wash, rinse, repeat cycle, and you just want out of it, but we get stuck and we don't know how to get out of it, and so we get home and we crack a cylinder because that's the only way we know how to feel some relief or some joy or some pleasure throughout the day because the rest of our day has just sucked our soul away. And so to me, it's not like some of us are doing careers we love, and congratulations, and hopefully more and more of us can get on that path to finding careers and jobs that we love. And at the end of the day, there are jobs that somebody has to do and that need to be done. And so for those people to, it's always it's quite ironic to me that I was driving. My dad lives like 2.5 hours away, and I go work for him and stay with him sometimes. And I was driving, and there were people honking at the construction workers. And on that road specifically, I'm like, these construction hours, quote unquote, take a half hour to 45 minutes for a week at a time from my day as I'm driving back and forth to make the other 52 weeks of the year better for me. And yet we get mad at them. And so I'm going to tie this back into one of the other stanzas, but it's just really interesting to me that there's these people that keep our country running. And then there's people that are sitting in a high rise. If society collapsed tomorrow, their jobs would be nothing, and yet they're crapping on the people that are making their lives easier, that are making sure the lettuce gets to the grocery store, that are making sure that so many of us don't realize there are, like, sewers underground that keep things flowing, like, people have to get under there and fix them, and so, regardless, I do hope more and more of us shoot for jobs that we can do that get paid more and can make our lives better. And at the end of the day, there are always going to be people doing those kind of jobs, the infrastructure jobs that keep things going. I think Dirty Jobs did a great job at highlighting a lot of that stuff. And so to me, Oliver Anthony in those lyrics is just saying that, like, I'm in a job that's sucking my soul away. Again, I don't think it's right or left. I think it's just a fact. And then the next stanza is, "It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and not be true, but it is." And I was thinking about this earlier, related back to the grief. I believe we've all had something happen where we wake up the next morning and it's like we wake up in the emotional state that we normally wake up in. And then you have a moment of, did last night really happen? Did yesterday really happen? Did that really happen last week? And reality hits you and you think like, yes, that actually did happen. And then you have to deal with it. And I think he even like moves his body in this way in the video. I'd have to rewatch it, but it's just is like, is it really true? And then your shoulders just something's like, oh fuck, it is. And so I just love that. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. And even when he goes like, "Oh, but it is," there is that somber. And again, it's just emotionally and lyrically for him to hit the grief like that, it's truly a work of art. And so then the chorus goes, "Living in the new world with an old soul, these rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't." I was like, "What?" "And they don't think you know, but I know that you do, because your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end, because the rich men north of Richmond." And really, I always just think of the rules for thee, but not for me. And I think that's just another really beautiful way of saying that. I had tried to record this video not live first, and I kind of related Washington, D.C. to a pimple on our face. It's like the United States is our face, and then Washington, D.C. is this pimple that won't pop. And they think that they're running the show because they're just this big red dot on your face, but really they're just this minor inconvenience that needs to go away. And the irony is we all feel it, but the way that the media, like, pegs things, it makes it look like the Republicans are bad or the Democrats are bad, when in reality, they're both just as bad, and that was the ironic thing that I believe Christopher Oliver Anthony Music said on Joe Rogan, is the Republicans were playing it at the Republican debate, and that's what ticks me off about those people too, right? They're just playing it to, like, dangle a carrot in front of the fan base, but, like, they don't give two shits because that song is actually about you. And so Oliver, Anthony, Christopher, whatever, I'm like, "What is your name? What do I call you?" Said that on Joe Rogan. Like, that song is about you. Do you not get it? No, you don't get it because 'cause you're just trying to get reelected. And so that's kind of the sad part of And I think that's why saying the Richmond North of Richmond, it's not a right or left, it's a up or down. It's the class versus, maybe the upper class versus the lower class. And this to me is just a beautiful way of saying it. And then the next, if you hear footprints, there's corgis. There's corgis on wood floors. So that's fun. The next stanza goes, I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milk and welfare. It's again with the media and the way that things are ran through certain lenses. I actually don't believe this stanza is as controversial as it's been made to be because of how the Epstein case or how other things have been washed through a certain filter. I actually don't think it's that controversial. But the one thing that I will say, and I am not up to speed on welfare and the logistics and the in and outs of that. But at one point, you could go buy like sugary food, but you could not buy like toilet paper. And to me, as a taxpayer, I would rather pay for someone's toilet paper than someone's Twinkies. And my economics teacher, when I was in high school, had a saying about if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you keep giving him the fish, he becomes dependent. If you take the fish away, he goes ballistic. And that is my biggest issue with the welfare is not that people don't need it or that we shouldn't have it or da 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 da. Da. Like I could give two shits about that debate. What bothers me is part of the human spirit is to shoot for growth. For the human spirit, if it's not growing, it's dying. So it's not a right or left thing. It's that we have created a system to make people dependent, to get people in this certain cycle. And yeah, of course they can buy Twinkies because that's going to create more long-term effects for them to stay on the government. And then pharmaceutical companies are going to make more. Like there's so many things that are making them dependent instead of this to me is the ideal situation, not because it's the right or wrong thing to do, but because it is best for the growth of the human spirit is to say, hey, hun, dude, chick, whatever, you've had a hard time. You've hit a rough point. We're going to help you. But what we're going to help you do is we're going to help you get back on your feet. So part of this getting back on your feet is we're going to pay for your groceries for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, you need to come in. We're going to teach you some skills and you're going to go get a job. And maybe if you don't want to go get a job, we're going to teach you how to start a business. And then once you get that business started, you're going to pay this back and you're going to help other people do the same thing. And then it's going to be a domino effect of you helping them and them helping you. And yeah, are there going to be certain people who can't go out into the workforce or who can't go get a job? Apps or who can't run a business? Absolutely. But for the most part, we have so many tools available to us. We need to create a system that helps people gain their sovereignty back. That does not keep them dependent because it's killing them from the inside out. So it's not really a matter of what's right and what's wrong. It's like what is best for the human spirit. And milking welfare is not what's best for the human spirit. And so that's what I personally loved about that stanza is and Oliver Christopher did talk about this on the Joe Rogan show. Like he struggled with mental health stuff and we don't have a system. We have a system that numbs things but doesn't actually heal things. And I want to see a system that all the way through can help with these things. He's just calling out that the current system is freaking broken. And there's certain people who just want to keep putting more money into the broken thing. And I always go back to, I think it was an Einstein quote of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Like, hello, someone calls it out and now it's controversial. Next. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking him down. And then it goes back up into the chorus. The God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes like we already talked about that, in my opinion. Um, in my opinion, whatever. Um, but the young men putting themselves 6 feet in the ground because all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. I really wanted to take a moment to highlight this portion of it because I read a book in 2015, I believe, called The Queen Keys to the Kingdom and the Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. I recently reread because the author Allison recorded the audiobook for the first time in 2022. And I re-listened to the audiobook a few months ago in I think May or June of 2023. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because there's also a book. I've not read this book, but I've listened to a podcast interview with the author called The Boy Crisis. And girls at the last time I looked, which was like 6 months ago, so this fact could be off. It's not. I'm like, it's not. Is women are more likely to attempt suicide, men are more likely to actually commit suicide. And when you look at our structures, they are more built for women to succeed than they are men. And when you take the average income, because people talk about the wage gap all the time. When you take the average income, yeah, men make more money. But if you take the median, or if you even compare it to a 1-to-1 ratio, most women engineers make more money than men engineers because they can multitask. Men, and this is what Allison talks in her book, is women have diffuse awareness, so they can use both sides of their brain at the same time, where men have single focus and can only use one side of their brain at the same time. It's not freaking wrong, but we've made things be better one way or the other when the truth is we're supposed to be complementary. And so because women can use both sides of their brain at the same time and usually don't have as much energy as men because we just don't have as much testosterone, we can sit down in a chair for 8 hours a day better than boys can. So boys are more likely to get medicated. Boys are more likely to flunk out of school and not get as good as scholarships because it's harder for them to sit in a freaking chair for 8 hours a day. It was hard enough for me. I didn't go to school. I freaking hated school because I'm a square peg they were trying to fit into a round hole, and it was just never going to work. And I was called stupid. The only reason I was called stupid by the students. The teachers like knew that I could F my way through school and, like, be okay. I had more important things to do, like, I wanted to go ride my horses. Don't bother me with freaking algebra 2, or actually, I liked algebra. Geometry can just take this job and shove it. Um, but I could fake my way through school better than the boys could. I should have failed out just as much as the boys, but because I think I could multitask, I could screw off, I could do other things, it was just easier for me. The system is better suited for women to do better, and yet all we can do is make men the villains and women the victims, and the irony is that is so damaging for both of us. Women can never get better if they're the victims. Men can never get better if they're the villains, when in reality, we just don't know how to communicate with each other and need to find a middle ground. I haven't really but, I experienced a very young age, and one of the things, because I've talked to people because I've always talked about my journey with it on, my Facebook or my Instagram. I've had a lot of people come to me even for the first time to say that they went through something like this. And I still stand by. It is easier for women to heal than it is for men to heal, because men are still like, act tough, don't talk, don't show your emotions. And I actually think more men get assaulted than girls do, but it's not talked about and it's not properly reported. And one of the main reasons that I believe this is because boys are actually more likely at a certain age to get sex trafficked than girls. So there are major things that we just don't talk about. And Oliver just points out, like, young men are putting themselves to 6 feet on the ground, and all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. It's fucking true. Like, you just look at the actual stats, and if you can pull your emotions out for 5 goddamn minutes to look at the stats, our boys are suffering. And nobody wants to take a minute and say, like, "Hey, maybe we should help them," because, hey, I don't know, maybe if men are doing better, maybe women would do better too. Maybe if women start doing better and actually owning their femininity, and men start doing better and owning their masculinity, maybe all of us would actually do better, because here's the thing, we're complementary. And I don't think there's one way to be feminine. I don't think there's one way to be masculine. I have a lot of naturally masculine traits. I grew up on a farm. I can back a trailer better than I can put on eyeliner. Like, that's just a thing in my reality. And yet we've made these things wrong. And for the most part, women get praised for being masculine and men get praised for being feminine. And then we wonder why we feel so fucked up. Well, it's because we're going against our nature. We're going against our instincts. And that's there is a grief to that. There is a grief that we have treated one another so poorly, and the song just points it out. Like, it's kind of one of those things, like, it just points out the facts, and then we get mad at the facts for being the facts, but that's what they are. And so, it's not just the state of our political union. It's not just the state of It's just the grief of the state of everything, is what I'm trying to say. And that's why I think this song is the cry of the country, because there is grief in all these pockets of our life, and this song doesn't just cover one of them, it covers so many of them, politically, culturally, and personally. And so If you haven't listened to this song, I highly recommend you check it out and do your best to put down your biases and see the song for what it is and not what you want it to be. Feel the grief in it and really the work of art that this song is, because I wanna know what you think. Like, do you believe this song is the cry of the country? If you're on the right, can you see how it's a cry for the left? If you're on the left, can you see how it's a cry for the right? And really, can we all just walk in the center and see how one man wrote a song so beautiful and sang it so beautifully that it created this movement on something that maybe wasn't politically correct, and maybe it wasn't, like, done in the best of ways. Maybe he had hot spots. Actually, he was out in a beautiful field, but, like, let this song be something that you can unite us on a common emotion and not divide us by a different set of thinking. That's pretty much all I have to say. I've been talking for a half hour, so that's all we got. If you like this video, please like it, hit subscribe, and please let me know in the comments, how do you feel about this video? Until next time, I'm Michaela, and this is the Western Hippie Podcast and Videocast YouTube channel. Something. I don't have a log off yet, so here we go. Goodbye. Thank you.